pregnant people.
Oh,
Pregnant people and catalpa trees.
Well, and babies. Look at
that
that.
is a fat ass
I
baby.
was gonna say the same thing.
That doesn't look right.
What is happening?
That looks shopped. That baby's shopped.
Yeah.
Welcome to Recapping Romantasy, hot takes on hot literature. Who are we?
We are me, Emma.
I am Maura.
And I am Tabitha. Recapping Romantasy contains mature content from fairy smut to dragon rider torture to monster genitalia. Be sure to check the episode notes for content warnings and the links to our socials.
Okay. Today, we're going to do a bit of a departure from what's become our usual roster of books. Something that is a bit more fantasy than it is romance, although romance is included, don't worry. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig was published in 2022 to acclaim. It was a pretty big book on Book Talk and has soared on Goodreads. It's got like 4.3 stars from 230,000 ratings. So I would argue there was some hype around this book at the time, but I wasn't fully onto Book Talk back then. So maybe that's a lie.
No, I saw it a lot. Like I saw it get wrecked a lot because of the like unique, cool magic system. So.
Yeah, it does have a unique, cool magic system.
Yeah,
so.
it was described a lot as like a tarot-based magic system.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Just because of the cards.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe the vibes of this book in a sentence may be like if Tim Burton directed a Sarah J. Maas book.
But there were no fairies.
No fairies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also has a sequel, correct?
It does
Yeah.
have a sequel.
I think it's just a duology.
It is a duology. So this is only the first book that we're going to talk about today, One Dark Window. So let's talk. All right, so we have another part situation here, Emma. I'm sorry.
I don't have anything to say about them here.
Part 1, the cards. So, okay, chapter 1. Elspeth is 9 years old when the physicians come to her house. In this world, physicians are something to run from. They're like inquisitors, maybe.
I imagine them like plague doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the vibe that they're giving off for sure. They're here to look for people infected with magic, like Elspeth. Her aunt tells her to hide in the woods, and she has to jump out of a window, basically mortally injuring herself. But it's fine. Everything is fine. A voice in her head tells her to get up, so she does. But she doesn't quite make it to the woods. She faints and dreams of footsteps and mist seeping into her, and eventually wakes up under a tree with evidence that something has happened around her. The thing in her head never told her what happened or how he, like the thing is a he, had saved her. She calls this thing the nightmare.
Girl, I got one of those nightmares living in my brain too. My doctor calls it anxiety.
Me too.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you have anxiety.
All 3. All right, flash forward. Elspeth's birthday. She is turning 20.
Okay, this is going to be a theme throughout the whole thing. I had so much hope here when I read that she was 20. And, like, I don't know if I feel disappointed, probably more misled somehow. Like, I'll work through this as we go. But I was really... The fact that she wasn't a teen, like she's not like 16, 17, 18, 19, she's 20. I was like, okay, maybe she'll be like a little more mature. Maybe, I don't know. We'll
Absolutely
see.
not.
Yeah.
I think about how I was when I was 20.
Yeah.
And
I just like,
I don't know. It wasn't a good time, y'all.
no, I mean, I liked being 20. I was in college, but like usually in books, if you're 20, I'm like, okay, so you are a little bit mature. Usually that's like code for new adult at least.
It's code for new adult, absolutely.
I didn't get those vibes.
Yeah. Okay, so she's walking toward town, which is called Blunder. Think quaint medieval European village with Sleepy Hollow vibes. Elspeth is meeting Ione, her cousin, on the way to her father's house. Important to note here that Elspeth does not live with her dad. She lives with her aunt because she caught the infection as a child. The infection grants magic to those who survive it, and this is a death sentence via the king, who's killing all the people with magic. Elspeth's cover is that she never got the magic after surviving the infection, but this is a lie. Anyway, no one knows that Elspeth lives with her aunt, so that her dad, head of the Destriers, which are like the king's super special guard, won't have to explain to anyone the situation.
Basically, her dad is a cop, so she got out of being charged and executed.
Yes. So Ione and Elspeth get to Daddy's house, where we have a serious wicked stepmother, Miriam.
She sucks.
Oh, man, so much.
Sorry.
And her 2 idiot stepchildren, Naya and Dimia. They're like, we're going to Equinox, which is a special festival at Stone, the king's castle. Dad shows up, and Elspeth can see his well card through his jacket. All right, so I have to stop now and explain the magic system, so bear with me. Long ago, the spirit of the wood gifted the Shepherd King magic, and he created the Providence cards to share the magic with others. The spirit of the wood was the divinity before the cards, so there are 12 different cards now that give their bearers special skills. But if used too frequently, will eventually start causing some bad shit. So there are the following cards. There are 12 black horse cards. These give great strength and combat skills, but on the flip side, if used too frequently, will make the person weak. So then on down, we got 11 golden eggs, which give wealth, but can also cause all-consuming greed. We got 10 prophets out there, which gives the ability to see the future, but can't change the future. We got 9 white eagles, bestows courage, but eventually flips to fear. So 8 maidens, which gifts great beauty, but eventually causes people to become a bitch. 7 chalices, which turns liquid into truth serum, but eventually turns it into poison. 6 wells, which lets you recognize your enemies, but will eventually make you be betrayed. 5 iron gates, which offers blissful serenity, but will steal your life.
Sounds relaxing.
I know, right? 4 siths, which causes the power to control others, but will cause you pain. 3 mirrors, which grants invisibility, but you'll see ghosts. 2 nightmares, which speak into people's minds, but will reveal your deepest fears. And 1 twin alder, which is the power to commune with the spirit of the woods. And there seems to be no flip side, but we will find out probably in the next book. Yes, I do have the 12 Days of Christmas stuck in my head now, and so do you. So
I don't have the 12 Days of Christmas. I do have Stay and I'll Sing. Are you guys familiar with that one?
No.
Stay and I'll Sing.
Of course not.
Sing.
The I guess more modernized version of Green Grove, the Russia Zoo.
Nope, that's not
No.
bringing it.
It's the same thing. It's like a countdown call and response. You say, stay and I'll sing. What'll you sing? I'll sing 5. What is 5? 5, come on, my boys. 4 for the gospel riders. 3 thrivers. 2 bear a lily white bud, and they are clad in green, and 1's a 1, and all alone, and that shall never be. Oh, nothing.
No.
But I just want to say, you singing that song with your hair like this right now really makes me think that you should like live in like 1940 like wartime.
Yeah, you really do. Like you're coming out of 1940 wartime.
Yeah,
right
and also
now.
with
It's so
your
cute.
headphones, like you're like a little like
Switchboard operator.
Yeah.
She joined
Who is
the
it? You
movement
want to
of
talk to,
ladies.
love?
Yeah. She literally needs to be that person on the poster with like,
Yeah. We can do it.
yeah, we can do it. Tabitha can do it. All right.
This is not making fun of you at all. This is, you're cute and lovely.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
All right. So the Shepherd King had to give up a part of himself to the spirit of the wood for each card in existence. But when people had magic, they stopped worshiping the spirit of this. And so the spirit created a treacherous mist to lure people into the woods and basically kill them. The mist is spreading and is the source of the infection. You can get through the mist with a charm. The Shepherd King wrote a book called The Old Book of Alders to explain all of this, and it's a cherished book in Blender with excerpts heading each chapter about the cards, about what the king lost to create them, etc. And they're all in rhyme, so just let that wash over you. All that information that I just put out there, just wash it over.
Yeah, you lay it all out here in one go, but listener, know that this info is something that you glean slowly over the entire book. There was one point when I gave up trying to keep the cards straight. Also, perhaps important is that there's sort of a like social political hierarchy as to who gets what cards to wield.
Yeah.
Like the more influence you have, the more special the card you have is. But also now that I've said wield, I'm imagining this universe as one big Magic the Gathering tournament.
It kind of is. Yeah. I mean, they're all like, what kind of card do you have?
Yeah.
And they just slap it down on the table.
Yeah. All these cards make me think of like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, and like even though these are supposed to be like tarot cards, like why are there so many battle-based card games?
No.
I could not answer that. Yeah,
Nerds.
nerds.
Nerds like to
Nerds.
pretend to
Nerds.
fight.
But like, did the Pokemon cards come first or Pokemon? I think Pokemon the game came first, and like I think same with Yu-Gi-Oh.
Back to Elspeth's birthday.
Yeah. I hate her name. I'm sorry.
I know, Elspeth. All right.
Off notes, but
Dad gives Elspeth some flowers and then wanders off to dinner, giving Miriam time to tell her that under no circumstances is Elspeth going to equinox with them. Miriam, not so subtly, calls Elspeth a whore.
Which, like, why and how?
I don't
Like, of
know.
all the names you could call her, a whore?
Yeah, apparently At some point, she got a little too handsy with some kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll come up in a little bit.
Yeah, he's obsessed with her.
Yes.
This whole thing felt so much like Cinderella. Like, while reading it, I didn't really think about that, but when you laid it all out, I was like, God, is she gonna have to like clean the whole house and pick lentils out of the fireplace? Like, Jesus.
Yeah. All right, so Elspeth abandons the dinner like right after she's called a whore. I mean, yeah, that's fair. But she like runs off without telling literally anyone, which is like, it was stuck in my head. Like, would you not at least just say like, I'm
She's
leaving?
20. She's an adult now.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to tell anyone
I
anything.
don't know. It just sort of seems weird. But like, okay, so she's running off into the woods at night. I don't know. Like, while the voice in
True.
her ear, in her head, tells her that running is what her stepmother wants. And Elspeth tells the voice that it's easier to run. It's in her nature. Meanwhile, the voice ominously tells her that his nature is to taunt her.
I don't know. They seem to kill people pretty easily in this world. I probably wouldn't want to pick a fight with somebody who knew the secret that I could be killed for.
Yeah.
True. Okay, so flashback to when Elspeth had the fever and her dad kicks her to the curb to stay with her aunt. She's been there a few months when her uncle bursts into the house at night with a bloodied sword, excited that he got a Providence card from some highwaymen. Elspeth sneaks into the library and finds out that this card is a nightmare card. She touches it, and the next thing she knows, she's got this thing in her head. Like, Elspeth's magic is that she can see Providence cards. They all glow a certain color. And if she touches one, some facet of it will seep into her consciousness, or she assumes it only happened this one time. So now she has the actual nightmare from the nightmare card in her head talking to her. No one knows about this. Okay, so back in the present. She is walking through the woods at night because that's a safe thing to do in all worlds. And highwaymen appear and grab her. She tells them that she works for Sir Hawthorne, her uncle, and they ask about his Providence cards. She panics and asks the nightmare for help, so he gives her strength and she punches this dude like literally across the road, then like Flash runs out of there. Then the nightmare does his most annoying thing, delivers an ominous portent via rhyme.
Like 90% of my highlights in this book are from his little rhymes because I was convinced that I was going to need them all to like figure out the mystery. But like the answer is laid out very well and very obviously.
Yes.
I just didn't want to feel stupid like I did with the Akatar riddle where I'm like, it can't be this easy, right?
No,
it can't be this easy, right?
And
then I gaslit myself into thinking that the answer's something else.
Yeah, and they literally will give us the answer in the next chapter.
I know.
Okay, so Elspeth's aunt announces that they've been invited to Equinox, but whoa, they will have to pay taxes when they get there. Uncle retrieves the nightmare card and dramatically throws it down on the table. He's going to give this to King Rowan, who is searching for a complete set of cards. They want to stop the mist and the infection, and that can only be done with all 12 cards. I say this as just like one representative card of each, so you don't need like all 12 black horses. You just need one.
Yeah.
Then you also need black blood of salt, which is an infected person, at the king's namesake tree. So this all needs to happen at the namesake tree. The infected person needs to be there. I think they need to die, and also you need all 12 cards present. Someone needs to find this Twin Alders card, which is really, really hidden.
If you haven't noticed, everyone's got tree names up in here.
Yeah, everyone is named after a tree. At least all of the like upper echelon, like, you know, lords and ladies, the hierarchy has tree names. I don't know about like the little people, but we don't barely see them.
I was gonna say
they're not even mentioned.
I mentioned this later, but like, what are the peasants up to?
We have no clue. So Elspeth is like, yo, maybe I shouldn't go because deep down she fears degeneration, which is what happens to people with magic powers because no one can just have some fun magic powers. They have to suffer for it. Anyway, she doesn't want to be reckless and be around others and accidentally get carted off to the executioner. So Aunt tells her to go so she can watch her stepmom squirm. Aunt is cool. Elspeth then has a dream that pretty much tells you right here that the nightmare is in fact the Shepherd King. So if you're expecting that to be a twist later on, it isn't.
Yeah. Like, spoiler alert, we're in chapter 3, but now the whole thing has been given away.
Yeah, so honestly, I was surprised that they laid it out in chapter 3 and then acted like it was a secret later on. So here's the quote, where the nightmare is kind of telling her, once was a girl, clever and good, who tarried in shadow in the depths of the wood. There was also a king, a shepherd by his crook, who reigned over magic and wrote the old book. The two were together, so the two were the same. The girl, the king, and the monster they became, unquote.
Yeah.
So
I know.
It's right there.
I know. I read it and I was like, it can't be that obvious, right? Like, it can't, like, no,
Yeah,
right? No.
That's it.
No.
That's the answer.
I know. So then I gassed at myself, and for like half the book, I was like, okay, maybe her like love interest who she's gonna meet, who also has like weird illnesses, is going to actually be secretly the nightmare in her mind, and they're like talking to each other because he's the other nightmare card, and they're like connected in two halves of the whole, and then they'll break everything, and then it'll be beautiful love. That was not it at all.
It is not.
Spoiler.
No.
I will say, I think the weird thing is that they do give it away pretty much immediately. But you find out that Elspeth doesn't realize it until much later.
I know. She's always just like, what?
Sorry,
it
that's so
can't
loud.
be the king.
No.
Like, what?
Yeah, and I was really confused because I read this part and I was like, okay, so we know. We've
Yeah,
discovered that
yeah.
this is what it
exactly.
is. And then she's like shocked at the end of the book.
He
and I
literally
was like,
tells her right there.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
the shepherd king.
Do you
I am
think he
in
was
you.
like- do you think he was like, Jesus Christ, this woman?
I think so. I think he was just like, God damn it, she is not getting any of my rhymes. This is just really irritating.
I also thought like maybe the author was gonna like, okay, she's gonna tell us, and then just subvert the whole thing the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh no, you thought it was that easy, but here I'm gonna throw you off over here. No, it was very obvious the whole
No,
time.
it's
Everything leads every time. Like the quotes at the beginning of the chapters are like literally what we're talking about in the next thing.
Yes.
Well, like I said, it could have been that Elspeth realized early on that
No.
This was the Shepherd King, and she could have spent the book like mentally sort of asking him for more information. Well, tell me about this. Well, tell me about
Nope.
this, and him being cagey about it.
Yeah, but no.
But
No.
no.
I mean, he's
He's just,
cagey
like, a
about
little-
a lot of things,
Yeah.
but like about stupid things that we already know. And especially since we already know this, we already know
Yeah.
he's the shepherd king. The nightmare is the shepherd king. And then at some point you hear like later on, like she subsumes these parts of like the cards, right? And then
Yeah.
she's like, the shepherd king had to give up pieces of his soul to create cards. So I'm like, well, there you have it. Why are
Nope.
we still acting very dense about this, Elspeth? But okay.
I was disappointed in that.
Yeah. So they all go to Stone Castle. So yay. Ione is like, what do you think Dad is going to get for giving up his nightmare card? I think he wants me to marry the prince. And Elspeth is like, ew, why? The prince and his brother are dicks. Ione is like, it might not be that bad. I'll get to help him rule and make good decisions. And Elspeth thinks that's a bunch of bullshit. And so Ione gets her feelings hurt.
I feel like we had this conversation about the British royal family a while back, which is
Yes.
why the fuck would you want to marry into that mess?
Yes.
Being rich ain't worth it.
No.
I literally think about this all the time. Like, I wanted to be famous once when I was like 10 years old, and then I was like, no thanks. Too many people would know all my shit, and like there's so many weird things that I expose on here, but like we're like semi anonymous, you know? But to even have like D tier level fame,
Yeah.
no.
It's
Thank you.
terrifying.
No.
Yeah.
When I lived in France, like that small town France for like a year, everyone knew who I was. Like I'm sure like part of it was definitely like how I dressed. I don't think I dress like super American, but I definitely don't dress very French. And like when I talked, obviously you could tell, but like literally I was in the grocery store just buying snacks. It was like pretty normal food, okay? I was standing there waiting in line. I hadn't said anything. They could smell it on me because the person behind me was like, "Oh, are you the American?" And I was like, like I'm just trying to like do my normal shit here. Like, please just like leave me anywhere I went. People went. Like, people would knock on my door and like open up, and they're like, "You're the American, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am, but like, what do you want from me?" Just to hang out, basically. I swear.
I want to tell others I hung out with American ones.
I got invited to so many. I mean, it was lovely. Like, I got invited to so many dinners. I got lots of free food, but like, got to go on a vacation once. That was great. This family like
Lots of
pseudo
perks, but
adopted
also
me.
everything else is terrible.
Yeah, just leave me alone.
Well,
The place that I go, the country that I'm constantly going to every year, every single time someone tries to take my picture with, like, they're like,
oh yeah.
a celebrity,
Oh,
and they run
damn.
over to me and they're like, take a picture with me. I'm like, no. They're like, but why not? Like, because I'm not the person that you think I am. I don't know who you think I am, but I'm
Yeah.
not that person. It happened to my husband last time we were there, and I guarantee you it was because I was standing next to him.
Oh.
So they were just like, he's clearly an American. He must be someone important. We're gonna
Yeah,
go over
yeah.
there and like ask for his picture. And he was like, what the fuck?
That's
Except he would never
amazing.
curse. He was like, no, go
Yeah.
away.
That
Like,
was like,
Yeah, I used to get the people trying to subtly take photos of me too. You know, like subtly, like
yeah.
sometimes I would call them out on it. I'd say like, "Are you taking my photo?" And then I'd offer to pause because I was usually with my friend who is very tall,
Yeah.
and I think that was kind of a novelty for them too. But sometimes it was just too much to like
Yeah.
talk to people in public to have like that coming at you constantly. I think I told you about how the one time I bought like a farming implement when I was in the market.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
I farmed in my village. I did gardening, and I like could not make it across town to where my bus was because I kept getting stopped every 5 seconds by people saying, "Oh my God, do you know what that's for? What are you doing with that?"
What did you buy? Like a hoe?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm farming." And they're like, "What are you going to farm?" And then I'd like say the name of vegetables and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you know what potatoes are."
All right, nice tangent, everybody.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so Elspeth pretty immediately runs into this boy that's obsessed with her,
Yeah.
and she has to dodge him. So I think this is the kid that she did kind of like have a thing with,
Yeah.
and this is why she's been called a whore all the time. So he's like, "Come sit with me," and she's like, "Pass." She winds up sitting next to this boy named Emery Yu, the king's nephew, and Emery is a drunken weirdo. Emery's presence is enough to make Elspeth lose her appetite. She's really very fragile. So she tries to escape again, and he goes with her with his wine that he's stolen. He grabs her arm and says some weird shit, and she slaps him. Then someone shoves him down some stairs. I don't know. That was a lot.
Yeah.
Then that same someone picks up Emery and shoves him off somewhere, and then Mystery Man tells Elspeth, "Sorry, my brother's drunk. Man has gray eyes and smooth copper skin and black hair."
Every time you describe a love interest in these recaps, I realize like I ignore every description like given because I was picturing like I think Ben Barnes, who played Prince Caspian from the Narnia movies, which is
Oh my
definitely
God,
not.
that was Ben Barnes, wasn't it?
It was,
Yeah.
yeah. A young Ben Barnes.
Yeah.
I
Now
can
he's
see Ben
old.
Barnes in this, an older Ben Barnes,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, he's 40 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see a 40 Ben Barnes.
He's
playing
definitely.
This role.
Would you describe him as copper skin though?
No.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You'd have to give that man like a, what am I trying to say? A spray tan.
Yeah, maybe like a hate crime spray tan. Yeah.
I think I thought of this guy, this love interest, the same way I thought of Kale,
Yeah.
which is like
Not at all.
like a white guy with a fucking military cut, like
Yeah.
some sort of thick neck loser. I don't know. This guy's a cop to me.
Yeah. Well, he is.
He is a
Yeah.
cop. So, okay, her breath falters. A shiver crawls up her spine. Do I sense the love interest? He is Raven Yu, the captain of the Destriers. So, oh no.
A cop.
He's a cop. He walks her to her room, and then she's like, "Wait, how did this dude even know his brother was acting up? He wasn't in the Great Hall."
Dun, dun.
Like she knows everybody who was there. I'm sorry.
No, you can.
I picture this town
Outbursts
being
are fine
really
here,
small.
Tabitha. I think it is small. Like I think of Blender as a really small, like little community nearby the castle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's no map in this book, but that's what I
Thank
was
God,
envisioning.
honestly.
Yeah. So Elspeth is woken by her idiot half sisters. They want to know about Emery, and Miriam says he's been living in the castle for 2 years instead of with the U's. So why is that? He's always drunk or saying weird things. Why is that? Elspeth is like, I wonder if he had the infection. She asks her aunt. This is on their walk to the gardens, but doesn't get very far when Ione shows up with a maiden card. Elspeth is so taken aback that she drags Ione aside and is like, "What the fuck, Ione? Did Prince Houth give that to you? You shouldn't marry him, and you shouldn't use that card because your loud voice and your tooth gap are perfect." And then Ione's like, "Mind your own business, Bess," and leaves.
Did anyone get flashbacks to A Fate Inked in Blood when the main character's family just like sucks so much for what feels like no reason? Or was that just me?
No, I did. I
Okay,
had Fate
thank
Ink and
God.
Blood flashbacks.
Because like Ione and the aunt were like the only normal ones, and then I know it's like partially the card's fault, but like God, she's just like so unbelievably rude here.
yeah.
As is the evil stepmother, as is like the stepsister,
Well,
as is the uncle, and like her dad
Her dad is
just
kind of
absent. I know,
an
but
absent father. Yeah. And
Everyone
Miriam is an absolute bitch. I feel like she's the wicked stepmother.
yeah.
Her idiot half sisters are it's very Cinderella coded, I
Right,
think.
right.
But
well, the worrying thing about Ione is that the princes have a bad reputation in
Right.
terms of how they treat people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's born out of like genuine concern for her safety.
Yes.
And she's like, stop being such a jealous bitch.
I know. And
Yeah.
later on, she's like, basically, I just want to be powerful. And I'm like, literally
Again,
a fate
doesn't
inked in
seem
blood.
worth it.
No,
yeah, well,
no.
it doesn't seem like in her character either because she was like a little.
She was so nice.
Yeah, she was so nice. She's someone that I would imagine wearing like a crown of daisies and just like floating around in a field
she's
somewhere.
definitely wearing pink all the time. You know?
I
Yeah.
feel like this could have been easily remedied by just having her be more insistent. Like, no, my family's making me do this. I
Right.
can't
That would
get out
make
of
so
this.
much
Yeah.
sense. Yes. No.
And then it could be even sadder to watch her personality change because you knew it was something that she didn't want.
right. Nope. Just unbelievably mean.
Here we
Yeah.
are, just rewriting these books perfectly. No
We
one,
do it
no one
every time.
listens to us.
No, we have like 100 people who listen.
It's fine. So Elspeth goes to brood. So while the nightmare tells her that the maiden card will ruin Ione, she's become beautiful, but will eventually be a total bitch to be around because there are downsides to using the cards too often. Her brooding is interrupted by Raven, who has the second nightmare card on him. Raven wants to look at her hands, which are scratched all up because she's been doing battle with the rose bushes, basically, and asks her why she was alone on the road by herself 15 days ago. And she's like, what? It wasn't me. He says he never forgets a face. So we know that he's the dude who was out pretending to be a highwayman prowling for cards. She's like, gotta go. And she runs off again. This is the third time she's run off in 6 chapters, which is a marvel.
Yeah, it's an effective way to end a scene.
I feel like if I was better at running, I would try that more often.
So he calls after her and eventually uses his card on her. He starts speaking in her head that he's not going to hurt her. She starts screaming. So he covers her mouth to shut her up while the king and his hounds ride past. They basically roll around in the dirt and he sees like her black veins, which happen when she's using her magic. And she's like, well, shit, guess this is the end. And he's like, contraire, I want to talk about your magic. And she's like, I have no magic. He says, you're a decent liar. You'll fit in, which is ominous. So they head back to talk, and she says they shouldn't go through the garden because the women have Providence cards. And he's like, how do you know that? She is kind of shit about maintaining her lie, honestly.
Yeah.
They always are.
So like their blood is always black?
No.
Or is it just when using magic?
only
Just
when
for
they're
using
using magic?
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Because I was going to say, I've heard that Vulcans from Star Trek have green blood.
You've heard?
I've heard. I've heard a couple
From
times.
people, from
Yeah.
nerds.
Yeah.
From nerds I like. So I was just wondering because I was like, okay, so
Yeah.
she must look strange when she's like blushing and
I
stuff.
was going to say you'd definitely be able to tell if they had
Yeah,
black blood
yeah.
all the time.
Uh-huh.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Okay, that makes more sense now.
So Raven takes her to the cellar in the castle and then goes to get his sister Jesper and Philip, a physician loyal to Raven.
Listen, I love fantasy books, but like fantasy names are all so weird. And the thing that gets me about all these names is they're just like almost normal. Like Raven, you get a pass. But Jesper, just, I mean, it's like not a girl's name. It's like normally, but like just make it Jasper. Or like Philip should just be like Philip. Or there's so many other I could go on.
Yeah.
I was gonna do that throughout this whole episode, and I was like, that sounds annoying. So
Yeah, I should mention that Raven is with a Y.
Yeah,
and
right.
Jesper is with
Oh,
a Y.
Elspeth, just call her Elizabeth.
Yeah, Elspeth.
God.
Yes. So Raven asks Elspeth about her magic, and she admits that she can see Providence cards. Then Wherein strolls in.
Which is
AKA.
the name.
Yes.
Yeah. And he goes by Elm.
Yes.
The rest of this time.
So he's the second prince, the younger one. It's pretty apparent that these people are all in cahoots. Elm has a Seth card, which will make people do the owner's bidding. And he says, hey, aren't you that Jane Yarrow girl we saw on the road? And Elspeth demands that he leave the room. Everyone leaves except for Raven, who begins to test her magic. She asks why he isn't arresting her, and he says she's useful to him, and she's done nothing wrong. He wants to know if anyone else knows that she has magic and doesn't seem to believe her when she says no one knows. I mean, same. So she says she knows he wants Providence cards, also, obviously, and that he doesn't want the king to know, also, obviously. Then she says she'll help him find more cards if he leaves her family alone. She also insists that he never use the nightmare card on her again.
You know, listening to you retelling this, I am boggled by the lack of agency of this woman. I know they're often like this in these books, but she's barely even feisty.
Yeah.
She's just like, no, I won't do this. Okay, I'll do it. But here's the things that I want. Well, okay, maybe only half of them.
Yeah. I actually, you're right. I don't want anything. Yeah. I like, as I said, I was excited that she wasn't like 16 through 19. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe she'll be like a little bit smart. Maybe she'll be like taking control of her life and she'll like be trying to get this stupid nightmare out of her. No, none of that. This, I'm like, and I know like the story itself also isn't that, like she's supposed to be like losing control of her life and whatever, but at the beginning I feel like she's just like fine with the nightmare being in her head. She's just like, well, I guess this is how it is. I'm not gonna do anything or research. Like I know she read the book of whatever rhymes and riddles, but
The book of rhymes and riddles.
I don't remember what it's
Whatever.
called. Yeah, the whatever the book that
Yeah,
we
I
all
know.
yeah
We all know,
you know
yes.
what I'm talking about. But like, she read that and was like, well, guess that's it. Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna die now. Like,
Yeah.
like even at the end, she barely is like, man, can I get you out? No, okay.
Yeah, she doesn't really. There are no other options for her, or she doesn't actually look for other options.
No.
She has no options right now. She doesn't know of any, and she seems to be just like, well, this is just life.
Yeah,
So she's living with us.
she's very nihilistic.
And now she's been found, so she's just like, I will do literally anything you need, so long as I don't get killed or my family doesn't get killed, etc., etc. Because that's how
Yeah.
this all shakes out if she's found with magic.
Like, I understand that books of this genre are generally made for younger women,
Yeah,
in that it is a common theme in all of them for the young female protagonist to like learn how to be bold. Like, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
I think it's just something I don't really personally feel.
no,
Because even when I was young, I always had a pretty distinct personality. Like,
Yeah.
I knew who I was. The things that caused me to be anxious or be shy were sort of outside of that. So I guess I don't really get
No.
the same experience as them.
me neither. I was frequently told to be quieter, so like this is not something I jive with at all. Like I can't relate.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Like I
Right.
said, I was always shy, but at the same time, if somebody was mean to me, I had no problem telling them to go
Yeah,
fuck themselves.
yeah.
Right,
You
sure.
should see Tabitha in a grocery store.
Oh, man.
Like
Yeah.
she's unstoppable.
The fights she's gotten
You
into
give her
with
a
old
look.
women.
You give her a look. She'll fuck you up right back.
Yeah.
Like she ain't.
It is true.
Yeah.
Okay, so the weirdest thing about this chapter personally is that it doesn't really go anywhere.
No.
It just sort of stops. And then it's second dinner time.
Okay. I thought another dinner was happening. I didn't realize they were having dinner again. I thought this was a separate night. I also
Honestly,
will.
I was very confused. in
Yeah,
this
I
part.
will.
Yeah.
I will admit, I picked
Same.
this book up and then like put it down for like at weeks at time. So that could have been that. That was on me.
Yeah. So Raven walks her back to her rooms where her half sisters help her get dressed. They wander back to the feast, and Elm is there to escort her to her chair. Elm is super handsome, but is a redhead and therefore cannot be the love interest. Sorry, Elm.
Literally, what was I on when I was reading this? Because I pictured him as like a blonde throughout the whole book. Like he's tall and he's blonde and like I don't know. Maybe
You know,
I read
I-
this and thought redheads don't exist, and then I just made him blonde because I don't even remember. I literally read that you said he was a redhead, and I said
You're like,
as
no.
I was typing my notes, I said no, he's not.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you
think-
were wrong.
I think I imagine this character is more of the Ben Barnes type.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can see that.
I also don't pay attention to character descriptions.
yeah, no.
So his brother Health comes along and gets smarmy with them. Elma's like, I need a drink, leaving an opening for Elspeth's aunt to ominously say that Uncle has made an accord with the king about Ione, in which she wasn't consulted. Then the boy that Elspeth has been avoiding swoops in and is like, you can sit with me. And Raven wanders over and they have a conversation about how she hates most destriers, and then says that the U's have invited her to sit with them. Sorry, boy she's trying to dodge.
And remember, she doesn't like this boy because he likes her.
This is true.
Yeah, and I thought maybe it was because like he's a bad kisser. Like didn't I think they like hooked up or something?
They did
Yeah,
hook
but
up.
They were all like, what, 17?
Yeah.
None of them know what they're doing.
He's just desperate for it.
He
That's
is.
the problem.
The problem is he's too desperate, and she's
Yeah.
like, I can't be having this. You're freaking me out.
No one like a simp being a simp and being thirsty, very different.
Yeah, this is true.
I don't know. I don't feel like we have enough information to know which he is.
No, he like this is the last time he's basically mentioned. I
yeah.
think he's at like one other party and she's like, go away. Like
So, because she said that the U's have invited her to sit with them, the fake dating plot begins. Elspeth goes to sit with the U's, and then Prince Houth makes the announcement that they have the nightmare card, and he's made Ione his bride. So, Ione wanders in, and she is the prettiest woman that has ever been because she's using the maiden card. Meanwhile, Raven is angry that Elspeth's uncle had the other nightmare card and she didn't tell him. I mean, she barely knows him, and I'm like, you never asked. Whatever. She's like, you lied. The king didn't know you had a nightmare card. And then they get into a whisper fight. He says he can't tell her everything, and they have a council, and the council has to approve it. Red tape, Elspeth. Don't you appreciate bureaucracy? Raven tells her to come to his chambers, sexy, except his clothes are scattered all over the floor, so I have to advise her not to marry this man. Unfortunately, she's like, I guess he's not as severe as I thought. Like, no, Elspeth, he's a man who has never had to pick up after himself. Get a grip.
Again, she doesn't want the boy who openly likes her. She likes the cop who attacked her in the street and doesn't know how to clean up after himself.
Yes.
Like, I found the messy room oddly charming, but now I'm realizing that was like the part of me that was raised to be like a good little housewife for a husband whose contribution to household duties is that he'll grill and do yard work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I get it.
thank you for being my voice of reason.
Yeah, the first thing I thought when I saw like, oh, there's clothes all over the place, I like, oh, good God.
Slob.
Yeah,
no
slob.
problem.
Oh my God. He's a frat boy.
Right.
If they're all college coded.
I was like, what sort of hoarder are we dealing with here?
Yeah.
So Raven talks to his family via nightmare card, while Elspeth has a silent conversation with the nightmare about Raven's reasons for hiding his nightmare card. But now they have to go to the cellar again. They start to leave, but have to stop to avoid getting seen by physicians talking about doping Emery. So Raven doubles back to get his hidden mirror card. Raven wants her to use it, but she refuses, and the nightmare is like, ha, you're so screwed. And so Raven uses it instead. They run into Miriam, who's like, you're whoring around with Raven, you?
Oh my God.
Then she proceeds to be a bitch, forcing Elspeth to tell her that her dad loves her dead mom more than Miriam. It's juvenile, but it's probably true.
And again, why wouldn't she be happy to see Elspeth whoring around with Raven? Like, if they got married, it would take so much of the responsibility off of her dad. Like, they're sure as shit not helping her get married. I feel like all the time she's been accused of whoring around, it's like, if you would have, like, encouraged this, you could have gotten her married off and not your fucking problem anymore.
Exactly.
Woman.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 20. In this world, I can see people getting married well before that. So
For sure.
they could have easily tried to marry her off at 16.
But like, do you see what I'm saying about this family is basically like the family from A Fadington Blood? Like,
Yeah.
they're all just so mean and
They are.
power hungry.
Yeah.
And like mean.
Yeah.
I know that's like babyish, but like it's just stupid.
Yeah,
It feels there's no like
Well, like I said, why is her mom,
reason behind it.
her stepmom, being so terrible to her about this when she'd be more like, good. I hope you fuck around with him and like get pregnant and have to get married.
Yeah.
So then you won't have to visit our home anymore. Like,
Right.
why would she be mean to her about this specifically?
Because she reminds her of the dead mother and how
I need to
much-
talk to someone who has a stepmom because
Yeah.
like, are they all mean? Is this like a trope that's in
It's-
real life?
It's not in real life. It's just a trope that's hung around a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Thanks, Cinderella.
Also, personally, I think a lot of these women get driven insane by their shit ass husbands.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Keep
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah,
wife.
yeah.
They continue on to the cellar, where everyone who was there before is again there, now including Raven's parents. The nightmare is like, let the inquest begin, all dramatic like. Okay, just a little note here. I really am not into how repetitive this feels. They were just in the cellar getting her secrets, like literally 2 seconds ago. Now they're back in the cellar so she can get their secrets. Nothing has changed in terms of trust. Only the prince getting the nightmare card has changed, which I suppose makes Raven more desperate for help, which she's already agreed to. So anyway, this is all really clunky for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. As I said earlier, I thought it was like actually a second night because I was like, why are they having dinner twice in the same night? Like, this seems silly. Maybe
I
they're
think-
celebrating all solstice long.
I
you
think
know?
it actually is a second night. I just put like this is the second dinner that she has to go to.
Oh,
It's,
Yeah.
from what I recall, it was a while ago. It's a little
It's
unclear.
clunky.
It is
Yeah,
unclear.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
kinda-
unclear about where the
Because even if it is 2 nights, it's
Yeah.
still repetitive.
it's
because
the
you're
same
like
beats.
arguing and going down to
Yes.
the cellar.
yeah. Well, they've
twice.
been in the
Yeah.
cellar twice in one day now.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, were there 2 dinners in one day?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Also,
Are they
why-
hobbits?
Are they constantly awake because it's solstice? Is it like
Yeah.
a thing that they're doing?
Why
Yeah.
are they hiding from the they're not called the Inquisitors, but you know what I mean, the physicians? Because like they've both been cleared of their
Yeah.
needing to be
Why did they
arrested
hide
for
from
their
the
illness.
physicians originally? When
Are
had to
they
get the
also
mayor?
like the purity police? Like,
Yeah, that also made no sense to me.
Yeah, I
was
was
like, why are
confused.
you hiding from these people? You don't need to
Heist.
hide from
Yeah,
them.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird. So they're like, we have gathered again in the same place on the same day to test you again to see if you can know our secrets. So as I type this out, I am less and less enamored with the beginning of this book.
yeah.
Okay, but anyway, at least Elma's like, could we speed this up because I could be getting drunk right now? And I'm like, I feel you, Em. So they give her a choice of which card they'll put her under, and she chooses the Sith, which perks Elma up. He makes her slap herself a lot. And finally, they start asking her questions on the influence of the card, and she tells them about herself and the nightmare card her uncle had, and Elma's like, do you think Raven's handsome to be a little middle school ass? And she admits that he is.
Okay, I'm interrupting because I have to make this comparison. I hate that I'm making this comparison, but it's been bothering me the whole time I was reading. But Elm's character gives me such like anime bad boy vibes.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
like, yeah, right. And as I'm saying this, there's another like anime trope that Raven also fits. And like, I'm so unbelievably upset that I'm number one noticing this and number one bringing it to your attention. Number two, right? Okay, so let me explain. So there's usually like if it's like a romance thing, there's like two main guys, and sometimes they're like love rivals. Like there's lots of I can name. But anyways, the type that Elm is like beautiful, but also just like so unbelievably bored by life. And he's like the morally gray character. He's like gonna go out and party, or he's gonna like get drunk, or like if you're in like a school kind of like slice of life type thing, like he's fucking shit up, okay? But like for fun and like a simple way, okay? And he's kind of like mean, and he'll just like do what he like wants to get what he wants, okay? And then there's Raven, who's like the high achieving like pretty boy, and he's like a perfectionist but usually like caring and kind. But all of this comes at a price, and their home life is usually like messy, or like they don't eat because they're just like so busy being class president, so they sustain themselves on like vitamin pills. And I just realized that they're just both anime characters, and I need to lie down.
Okay, as you were talking about this, I started thinking about this in terms of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because how can I not? And I was like, Elspeth is Buffy, and Raven is Angel, and Elm is Spike. And now that's all I'm thinking about.
It is way too much credit to give Elspeth to compare to Buffy.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. But how else am I supposed to think about this in terms of Buffy?
Yeah. I just like there are so many characters I can name right now that like Elm is.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many characters that Raven is.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, in terms of love interest.
Like
Yuki
from
it's like a
Fruits Basket.
triangle. You have like the two opposite sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
but they're both good in their own ways.
Yes.
Like even the morally gray characters, like he'll like push like a dumb girl down the stairs, but like he'll save the girl, the Elspeth character.
Sure. Or like Stefan and
like,
Damon and Elena, like totally different vibes, but Mm-hmm.
Tabitha's just sitting and looking
I know.
at us.
She's just like, I would like this conversation to be over now. Okay, so
he sighs a lot, probably.
I know he does. Okay, so Raven asks if she has other magic since she threw him across the road. That seems suspicious. The nightmare loosens the magic on her so she can lie. So they tell her that they want her to help them collect the cards, which I think we already knew. Like a very intense scavenger hunt. They're going to do this to save Emery, who is the infected blood that the king needs to lift the mist. So instead, they're going to use someone close to the king, but they don't say who. And so she decides to help them find the twin alders. They ask Elspeth to go stand outside in the hallway while everyone discusses whether to let her into their super cool tree house. And I mean, you told her everything already?
Yeah.
That seems like a really weird way to do this.
We're going to decide if you get to help us or not.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like we told you all our secrets. Now we're going to let you...
We got to vote if you're in the club.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what are you doing?
Were they going to kill her if they didn't?
This is not how this works. But okay. Naturally, Elspeth can literally hear everything happening through the door. So not a great hideout on top of it. They decide that Elspeth can come live at Castle U under the guise of being courted by Raven. Because I guess in this world, being courted is nixed at a sleepover, which sounds exhausting to me. Anyway, I hope that man picks up after himself.
I mean, if we're equating customs in this story to historical Northern Europe, which, most fantasy that you read is,
Yeah.
then extended sleepovers, but usually with more chaperones than we see
they
in
were
the
very
story.
unchaperoned in this book.
They
I
were
was
very
confused
unchaperoned. My God.
because I was like, okay, in lots of the Regency romances that I've read, like this sort of like, oh, you're going to spend a week in the countryside with this man that you're courting, but also like 10 other women are going too. But you know, you have like house parties basically.
Mm-hmm.
But you're always chaperoned.
Yeah.
And then of course you get like compromised, which is, you know, usually the
Yeah. Somehow you find yourself in a closet with them or whatever.
Yeah, you were left
somehow.
you were
Yeah.
left alone with the opposite sex
Yeah.
for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And now
You took your
you're
glove
ruined.
off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now you have to get married. Oh no. Okay, so Raven takes her to see Emery so she can understand why they're doing this. He tells Elspeth that they need to find all the cards by winter solstice, so you've got a little ticking clock in there, because Emery's magic flares at the shift in the seasons. And the Old Book of Alders says that the cards have to be joined on the solstice. But when they get to Emery's room, he's gone.
There's a lot of names in this book.
Indeed,
Yeah.
there are.
This book would honestly make a pretty cool video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the vibes in this book are
Like
very
a
interesting.
Nancy Drew video.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if it was more of a puzzle than a combat game, I'd be
Yeah,
into
no,
it.
not
Yeah,
combat.
yeah.
You could maybe do combat if like if you had I hate myself. If you had to like
Fight sexy boys.
yeah, duh. No, I'm just kidding. If you had like if number one, if there were like monsters in the mist that you had to fight,
yeah.
that if you get bit then you get infected, but like the cards could be like part of your spell slots, if you will. Or your attacks, and you can do like a couple like easy like fist attacks or something.
Monsters in the Mist would have been fun. Okay, so they run to search the castle, and Raven is like, I would rather a Destrier not find him, but dude, you are the head of the Destriers. So.
Oh, yeah, but he's one of the good cops.
Right. Anyway, they run into the king, who is like, you look winded. They're like, we're going to the gardens, very non-suspiciously. And Raven looks really uncomfortable when the king is like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Looks like Raven likes you, Elspeth. And so now Elspeth thinks that Raven hates her and or hates lying.
So, yeah, like, where are all the peasants in this world? Like,
Nowhere.
Like, fuck these people. Who's doing all the farming? Like, who's putting stuff together? Who's keeping everything running? I really hope that there's a bloody revolution coming.
The king is also like walking around by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like where are people? Like
Just the
where's
fact
his
that
court?
just the fact that Raven's room is a mess tells
Yeah.
me that there are no
Servants?
people. There are no servants
Yeah.
taking care of
True.
anything. So as far as we know, there are no peasantry.
I also picture this world kingdom whatever being very small, like this is no hate to this country, but like a Liechtenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah. We kind of see peasants later with the people that the king tries to
Yeah,
kill.
like there's
but
the
that's
market
only
day.
one.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So
Also, what the never mind, we'll get to that later.
yeah. All right. Everyone is drunk in the gardens where they find Emery.
Who's making the booze? Sorry. Keep going.
So many questions. Elm makes everyone part with his card so they can get to him, and Emery picks someone's pocket, and this causes Raven to get into a literal brawl. During this brawl, Elm casually tells Elspeth that Emery can read people by touching them, and that Raven is infected too. So what are secrets to these people? Like the men who attacked Raven hand over their cards, and then Raven touches them and their light vanishes.
Do you think the reveal in the second book is going to be that it turns out everybody's actually infected and they're all just lying about it?
Maybe. So, I mean, it would have made way more sense for Elspeth to just see the light vanishing when Raven touches the cards and then comes to her own conclusions.
Yeah.
Elm had no reason to tell her about this. None.
Well, we do know that the Shepherd King has basically said, hey, I'm the Shepherd
Yeah.
King and I
Yeah.
live inside you. And she's
Right?
like, weird.
Maybe they don't have school in this world.
They've-
She's just a dumb idiot.
Oh, God. Well, she
Um,
probably has never had any schooling whatsoever in
Yeah,
her
surely
life.
not.
So,
Maybe from her governess, whoever if
Yeah,
she exists.
From the sound of it, she's read one book in her life.
yes, over and over again.
the rhymes. Okay, so like I know I've had many tangents so far, but again, my main gripe with this book is it reads like a YA book, but it isn't. Like everything is just like a little shallow. Like I don't know. As Tabitha said, like our main lady doesn't have much agency. She also is like not very smart as
As we have discovered.
like the romance is very sudden but a little shallow, and everything is just so obvious.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, hey, you know how he just like sucked up that light? Yeah, in case you couldn't figure this out, reader, I'm gonna tell the person who this book is being told to, this is what this means in case you were not smart enough to figure it out. Like, my God.
Yeah.
But also, like, the thing that's confusing to me is, like, they do say the word fuck, which I found refreshing.
They say the word fuck all the time.
They do say it a lot, but also, like, every time it was said, I was surprised that
same.
someone said it. Like, I almost, like, gasped like a puritanical woman. Like, but not because it's an uncommon word. Like, I say that word all the time. It's in, like, almost all of my notes. But because in this situation, it felt so out of place.
So tell me, do you prefer in fantasy or science fiction worlds if they use our swear words, or do you like it when they make their own swear words? Like, what's the one from Battlestar Galactica?
Oh crap. Not that, but shit.
It's like frag, something like that.
Frack. It's frack.
Frack.
Yeah.
Here's
Because I hate that more.
okay. Here's the thing. I think they do like a pretty good job of like combining the F word with like their worlds, because they say like, oh, spirit or whatever, or like, oh, to the tree. I have no idea. They say dumb shit that like makes sense for in world, but then but it's not the F word that feels like too modern. Like Iron Flame, Fifth Wing, Fourth Wing, whatever the fuck that book's called. They do lots of modern slang in there, and it feels like fine.
Like
but
Endgame.
yeah. Like, but it's okay there. It doesn't like, I can say a lot about those things. We have 2 whole episodes where I say a lot about those 2 books, but like it's fine there. Okay. The F word here works well within the like fantasy words that they're using. Like Rebecca Yarros just omitted basically all fantasy words. They were like, we're not even gonna make up anything. We're not even gonna say like, oh, to the dragons. They just say like, fuck shit awesome, like all the time. But like here it works. But again, it's not the fact that the F word itself is used within this fantasy word as if like they've never said the word fuck ever. But it's the fact that like it's like watching like a 5-year-old say fuck, and you're like, how do you know that? Like,
Yeah, I think it's just because all the characters act so young.
They're 20, so
I
yeah,
know,
they are young.
But they act even younger than 20. They act like they're teens.
Right.
And I do think I don't know the history of this book, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was written originally as a young adult and then it sold maybe even as a young adult, and they decided to age it up at the time. I don't really know.
Let's sprinkle a couple F words in here.
Yeah, a lot of times that happens with books that they don't sell as a young adult. They go back and revise them as an adult, and then they sell them as that because it's sometimes easier.
Maybe.
There's more of a market.
I even tried to look up to see if it was young adult. Sometimes Amazon will tell you what the age range is for this, but they didn't. So I was like, oh, maybe it's
like movies where like if you're going from PG to PG-13, when you're in PG-13, you're allowed like one fuck.
Yeah,
you're allowed to say it one time.
You can say it like once every 100 pages.
It's like the youngsters can't take more.
Yeah.
Okay, so Elspeth, in true Romantasy heroine fashion, throws a finger in Raven's face, like right there, and says, I know what you are. Raven rationally is like, maybe don't make a scene in front of all these drunk people. He says the king knows about his infection. His magic is that he can't use certain cards, and they can't be used on him, which is pretty handy if you're the head destrier. Then he's like, let's hold hands.
Okay.
Because they're supposed to be courting. Oh. They run into her half-sisters who are like, oh my God, they're courting? They go dance to make it look realistic. And Emery shows up, says some ominous things, and then vomits blood all over the place.
Gross.
Yeah. So part 2, the mist. I will say I don't think parts are really necessary in this story.
I'm really glad I'm not the one who brought it up this time.
Yeah, because, okay, we're going to jump right into, they're traveling to Castle U now, leaving Emery sobbing and spitting blood all over the place, which is kind of a weird jump, but okay.
Yeah, it's like barely a jump from what just happened.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
So they arrive at the castle, which has a hedge maze and gargoyles. Raven walks her to her new room.
Who maintains that hedge maze?
Not a peasant, I'll tell you now. So they do have a butler.
Magic.
They have like one butler.
Oh,
I remember that happening.
Yeah.
So, all right. Raven walks her to her new room and says he's been hiding his magic so long he's forgotten how to talk about it.
Oh my God.
She relates. She says that they don't have to pretend to court in private. The house is far from town, so they can just like not do the courting thing since he doesn't seem to want to do it, and they don't have to pretend there's something they're not. He asks, what are we, Miss Spindle? And she says, nothing. Isn't that what you wanted? He doesn't say anything, and she's like, I thought so, and slams the door in his face.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So next morning, she is looking at the carpet in her room.
The carpet?
Yeah, the carpet.
Is it a rug?
I guess, but she says carpet.
When did carpets start in existence?
Not until the 20th century.
Oh.
It was all rugs before that. I'm on record as thinking carpet is a mistake, just like as a civilization.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
It's
believe in
not-
carpet.
What's your
not a
feelings
good
about
thing.
linoleum?
I'm fine with linoleum.
Linoleum is actually good to have in hospitals because it's like it's
Yeah,
easy
true,
to clean.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to peel up.
What
if you
about in
needed
people's
to.
houses?
If it's like a kitchen or something, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Way better than carpet.
Yeah.
True. Well, who wants a kitchen or what? Who
Dude,
wants
Dude,
carpet
I,
in a kitchen?
I grew up in a weird old farmhouse, and
Yeah.
our bathroom had carpet in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
horrible.
also a
What
mistake.
if like
Massive mistake.
So many questions, or like those people have like the little rugs on top of the toilets.
Well, yes. What the deal with
The seat
carpet
covers, not like where you sit on them.
was basically when they figured out how to make carpet.
Yeah.
It was almost like a status symbol. It was like a mid-century status symbol to have
Oh.
carpet in all these rooms.
Yeah.
So they just started cramming cheap-ass carpet into random rooms in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the years, a lot of people got good sense and took it back off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm completely against the concept. It's just like a rug that's not easy to clean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really awful. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Okay. So
weird if she has a carpet, makes more sense if it's a rug.
it's probably a rug, but it's in any case. The carpet has the design of a knight riding a horse on it. That's all I have to say about that. It'll become important later.
Yeah.
FYI. Anyway, Jesper walks in with her trunk and a letter from her aunt that tells her to be careful at Castle U. There's old magic there. Jesper is to take her down to tea with some ladies named Pine. They need to chat them up to see where their family is keeping their Iron Gate card.
What kind of tree would you want to be named after? I think it would be catalpa. I love catalpa trees.
I know you do. It's sweet.
I had to Google what that was.
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry, Tabitha just dropped her microphone on herself. I think I'd be a weeping willow. Oh my god. I think I'd be a weeping willow. There was like this beautiful one in the middle of like the overflow ravine behind our house that I like saw from my bedroom window, and I'd always like dream of sitting under it and like there being like fairies and stuff. But I was never allowed to go in that area because my mom was like convinced it was full of sewage, because you know it's like the like when it rains really hard and it's gonna flood, like it overflows into there. So like she probably
yeah.
was right. Like one time my brother went down and like there was a tunnel that was like attached to the other ravine on the other side of our street, and he walked under it when he was like 14, and my mom was like, "That's disgusting," and he got grounded for a long time. But anyways, moral of the story, the city cut down the tree because like there was too much vegetation in the overflow area and it was bad. And I was devastated that the tree was gone.
I feel like
Never
that
got
is
to sit under it.
a very Midwest experience to look at something and go, "Oh my god, that's beautiful," and then have someone be, "It's full of sewage, don't touch it."
Yeah. Yeah, we had, so I'd be a willow. Not related to the willow in this story because he's a fuck.
Mara, what kind of tree would you be?
I think I'd be a sycamore.
Oh.
I think they're just pretty trees. Pretty stately, huge.
Yeah.
You don't really know how old they are.
Yeah.
They just look like they've been there forever. Just, an ancient frickin' tree. Tea begins with everyone talking about dowries, and Elspeth gets one of the Pine girls to say that her dad has a prophet and an Iron Gate, and he always keeps them on his person like a boy with toys.
Again, what are secrets in this place?
They don't have secrets. There are no secrets here. They go tell Raven's dad, and so they can begin plans to steal it. Elspeth asks whose blood they intend to use for the ceremony, and they want to use the king's head physician, who turns out to be also infected and able to see infection in blood using this creepy device that he puts on his hand.
Ugh, the rules just really don't apply to the rich, do they?
They do not, no. He tells her they're missing the well, the Iron Gate, and the Twin Alders. Elspeth says she knows someone with the well, her dad. Raven comes home in the morning. Elspeth decides to avoid him and goes into the garden to weave herself a flower crown and gets stabbed by another rose. Roses and her are not friends, I have to say.
Like, does this mean anything in this book? This like happens a lot.
I don't know. She's just dumb.
So Raven shows up and is like, that sucks. He gives her the rose and she's like, I thought we weren't pretending. He's like, flowers don't play games.
Is that a real line from the book?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I have it quoted there. I also don't believe it. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So he decides to take her to a very special place and then tells her she doesn't need a charm for the mists because they're special. They go to the old Castle U ruins, and only one room remains with this one dark window. The name of the book, so you know it's super important.
So I said everything's so obvious.
Yeah.
Like, Ugh.
Yeah. So the nightmare tells her to go in. She'd have to climb in through the window, though, and the nightmare is like the window is all she ever needed, which means the spirit of the wood. And then she asks if he's ever been there, and he laughs ominously.
She dreamed about this location earlier as well, and
Yeah.
she still doesn't fucking get it.
Yeah.
No.
I think she dreamed about it right before she looked at the carpet. If
Yeah.
I'm mistaken.
Which, like,
yeah.
again, it was so obvious that, like, she's like, oh, in my dream there was a man in gold armor. Oh, oh, I woke up and, oh, there's this weird carpet here. Maybe a rug. And,
a man in gold armor on a horse.
I wonder what that could mean.
If only I could connect the two.
No, I don't have any critical thinking skills.
So they trot back to the castle where everyone is getting dressed up as highwaymen. They're going to go steal the Iron Gate card. Elspeth freaks out that she has to wear pants. The nightmare tells her to grow up. Feyre would be judging her so hard right now, silently. She wouldn't even know Elspeth's name, probably.
Why would Favor not know her name?
It just feels like one of those things that feel like this woman is so beneath me.
Oh,
I can't possibly care.
Got it. I was like, is this a trope that I don't know?
I think it was mostly like how Feyre didn't know some of the names of the queens.
Oh.
You know, like
yeah.
technically speaking.
I thought that was just Sarah J. Maas being boring and
That-
not wanting
well,
to think of names.
I think that, but also it made Feyre seem like these people are super
Yeah.
important, but I simply
not
do not
important
care enough to know what their
Yeah.
names are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So they go to the stable and Raven tells her she needs a horse. Elspeth has not ridden a horse because animals don't like her.
yeah, because she's got like weird energy about
Yeah,
her.
she's got super weird energy and they can pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Raven makes her try to do some Reiki type thing with the horse to get them to like each other, but the horse isn't having it and tosses her.
Is that not a thing for horses? I've like feel like I've seen
Reiki?
that. No, shut up. Let me get to it. Like, you know, when you like meet an animal, you like put your hand out to them, like let them sniff you, and then you like, you know, pet. Sorry, I'm petting you right now. But like, you just like pet the horse a few times so they get calm. No?
Sure. I mean, you can do that with a horse.
Okay,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Animals can pick up on like if you're nervous or angry or stuff like
oh yeah,
that.
they can
Yeah,
pick up on
yeah.
it real fast, and horses definitely. But like, they can pick it up basically through your butt. Actually,
Okay.
it's really crazy.
What?
Yeah, when you're sitting on a horse,
Oh, okay.
they can tell when you're like nervous.
I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't realize horses like sniffed assholes like dogs. So
they do not.
Snooze to me.
But you know, I think it's like common courtesy with horses to be like, "Hey,
yeah,
I'm here.
yeah, okay.
Can I pet you?" And they sniff you, and you're like, "I guess maybe that's a yes." And then you
And then
can
you do the
pat them.
Reiki.
Yeah, you can do the Reiki
Got
thing.
it. Okay.
So they have to go by horseback though. She has to ride with their most skilled horseman. And who is it? Can you guess? Can you guess?
Well, I read the book.
Yeah, it's Elm. Elm is the most skilled horseman. I was so shocked and appalled. So anyway, she sits behind him though, so it's not like sexy tandem horseback riding. Then Raven gives her a knife and says she won't need it, which is classic foreshadowing for she's gonna need this knife.
Why would she assume that she would not need a knife? She's literally robbing somebody.
I don't know.
Raven apologizes to her for scaring her on the road the one time, and she forgives him. And then the stealing begins. It goes wrong immediately. There are 2 carriages with 4 destriers there. Health is also there, so it's kind of a big deal. They stop the carriages anyway. The horses bray. Now, horse girl side note, horses don't bray. Donkeys bray. Get it
Okay.
right, authors.
What sound do horses make when they're scared? Would you call it a whinny, a scream, a roar?
Horses,
Roar.
I swear to God, they sound like dragons when they're scared or angry or posturing. It's like this high-pitched, like screaming noise. So yeah, I would call it a scream.
I just want to say, if the author wrote "The horse screamed," I would have pictured that fucking yelling goat that everyone spliced into that one Taylor Swift song
God.
in like 2010. You know what I'm talking about?
I do know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's yelling though. Okay.
What's the difference between a scream and a yell? Honestly,
One scares the shit out of you, and the other one's like, what is that?
okay.
Yeah, as someone who spent a lot of time around goats, when they make noises like that, you're not scared. You just scream back. You say, "Shut the fuck up."
I will say when my cat runs around, well, she doesn't run around my house, but when she stands on furniture and just yells at the ceiling, I yell back.
Yeah, but screaming, like there's a screaming where you're like, something is definitely wrong.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
there's like screaming where you're like, oh, you know what, this is fun. This is fun. Everyone's having a good
yell
time.
is neutral.
Yes.
A scream is layered with emotion. Got it.
So everyone starts fighting. Elspeth tells Raven where the card is and then runs back into the mist, but then she runs straight into her dad, who is fighting with Elm. She hits her dad with a rock, saving Elm but getting her dad's attention. The nightmare takes over and fights dad successfully, but then a horse runs by and knocks her down. Jasper picks her up and they run into the mist, but then Jasper gets knocked down and hurts her ankle. It's so chaotic, you guys. Jasper fights off the Destrier who knocked her down, but loses her charm, so she's going crazy in the mist. Elspeth has to run back to Raven for his charm because she doesn't have hers for some reason. She left it behind.
I thought, didn't she give it to a child? But that's later.
No, it's later.
Yeah.
So why the fuck didn't she have it?
Because before Raven told her that she doesn't need it,
yeah,
so she didn't bring
special.
it with her.
Also, we never described this, but the charms are just like dead animals.
They are.
Yeah.
Like a rabbit's foot, which it makes sense. It's lucky, and like a crow's foot. Are crow's feet
I think
lucky?
It's a feather.
Oh,
or
whatever.
Yeah, it's little pieces of dead animal that they have like a little like ritual that they do with it that turns it into a charm where they can get through the mist.
Yeah.
Raven's, I should say, is the head of a rattlesnake that he keeps like wrapped up in some like twine or whatever, so he doesn't accidentally get bitten by the snake.
What?
Well, and the thing is with
the
Jasper,
mouth closed.
don't you think if you knew you had to keep a charm on you,
Yeah.
or else go insane, you would keep it better secured so that you don't like
Right.
get
Yeah.
knocked down and
Like a
immediately
necklace?
lose
You
it?
would make it
Yeah.
a necklace
Or
or
like
something.
just like strap it down onto your body under
Yeah.
several layers.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, they're just constantly losing charms left and right.
Just put it up your butt.
Yeah,
That
put it
thought, yeah. I started rewatching Broad City, and like one of the first episodes, Alana has like weed in her vagina because like at the time it was recorded, weed was illegal in New York still. So that's unfortunately what I thought of is them like wrapping a little like rabbit's foot up in plastic and just putting it up there like a tampon.
Yeah, there you have it.
Do you think that would work?
I do.
I
No,
mean,
like,
for
not
keeping
to-
you safe from the fog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
You don't have to like have skin touching it or something. Well,
No.
first off, there's no way that it was ever described in this book, but I like this book. I just want to say, I know I'm being really negative.
I liked it too. There are things about it though that I just have to bring up and be like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
As with everything I do, anyway. So she runs into Houth, who breaks her wrist, and then she calls on the Nightmare, who like stabs him.
I thought she scratches him.
I
Like she
think-
grows claws.
Yes, she does. She goes
Yeah.
claws and she scratches him across the neck. She falls again, but finds a Raven who gives his charm to Jasper. Everyone asks how Elspeth got away from Houth, but the Nightmare is still sort of in control. So he says all oily like through her, quote, "Perhaps it was he who got away from me," unquote. The Nightmare is not really big on hiding anything.
No.
Like at all. Okay, so Elspeth rides with Raven back to the castle, but she rides in front this time, so you know it's true love. He helps her get down from the horse and asks if she still wants to pretend, and they have a nebulous conversation that basically confirms that they are still going to pretend to court. They get to call each other by their Christian names now, which is super sexy. She has a dream about the room with one dark window. A knight is sitting on a stone and tells her to let him out before everything bursts into flames. She wakes up and Ione has dropped in for a visit, all maidened up and totally different. Apparently the Destriers are coming to train, so Houth is there too.
Again, the Nightmare's like showing her this guy being like, look at the two of us.
It's just like, one could assume this is a clue.
He's like standing right in front of a picture of the old king and is like, this is a handsome man, is it not? Oh, he seems a little familiar, doesn't he? No, never. Nope. These pictures do not look the same.
So Ione and Elspeth go on a little walk while Ione tells her that Houth was injured in the highwayman raid last night. She seems absolutely delighted about it. Elspeth gets a look at Houth and he has 4 deep scratches on his neck, and her work via the Nightmare. Raven says he made them all come because they need to train since they defied his orders and left stone. I don't know why I'm laughing. I can't stop laughing.
Because I'm a 16-year-old boy.
I know exactly what you're laughing at, but it's okay. Raven and Houth spar for funsies, and Raven manages to like mangle Houth's hand to balance out the fact that Houth broke Elspeth's
Oh my god.
wrist. Elspeth overhears Elm and Raven talking about her supposed abilities, and then Elm encourages him to use the Nightmare card on Elspeth to look into her secrets, and Raven refuses. Raven then goes to Elspeth's room and invites her to go see the thing he meant to show her yesterday.
His dick.
Back to the ruins. They climb into the room with the one dark window.
Yeah, we're back here again.
Yeah, wait, we are.
We are back.
Why is this book so repetitive?
There's a stone in the center of the room. Raven bleeds on it, and it opens up magically to show all the cards they've collected and stashed right there. The nightmare tells Elspeth that the Shepherd King built this room for the spirit of the wood, and the stone is an altar. Raven and Elspeth talk about how he became a destrier, why Elm hates his dad and brother. Apparently, Elm is just bookish, and they don't like that.
Sure. So fucking lame.
Elspeth closes the stone with her blood, and they have a moment. He's like, "Your heart is racing." And she's like, "I don't know why." And he says, "Is this you pretending?" And they kiss. She is so tired of pretending not to want this, equals they have known each other 3-ish days.
Like, it's cute, okay? Like, I highlighted some of these lines, but also it's so high school. Like, I know we just met in honors chemistry on Monday, but like, I think I'm in love with you.
Yeah, it is.
Do you want to go to the prom on Friday? Like, oh my God.
So they're interrupted when Elspeth sees a vision of the knight on the stone demanding to be let out. She runs and yells at the nightmare to tell her what's happening and who the knight is. Yeah, the reader already knows. The reader's known from ever.
Yeah.
And then Elspeth finally understands that the nightmare is the Shepherd King's soul.
Yeah, you know that we figured out like in the second chapter.
Yeah,
She
chapter
just got it.
22 now. Yeah.
All right, so she wakes up in the garden by the room with the one dark window and has no memory of walking there. Philip gives her tea and checks her wrist and tells her that they can't find the Twin Alders card because they surmise the Shepherd King already bargained it to the spirit of the wood to learn what would lift the mist, only to find out that the answer was the card he'd bargained.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah. So Elspeth talks to the nightmare about what her degeneration is. She realizes that every time she asks for his help, he takes over more and more of her. Eventually, she'll lose herself completely and be consumed by the nightmare. Elm tells her they're going to the market.
I am being consumed by this monstrous creature. Also, I need tomatoes.
Yes, obviously. For some reason, everyone wears masks to Market Day, which I think is basically like this world's Halloween. Houth asks her what she sees in Raven, and she says he's tall.
Okay, cool.
Elspeth Spindle, everyone, a clever wordsmith the world has never seen. So Houth is like, "Oh, did you hurt your arm?" And Ione swoops in to rescue her with a lie about falling off a horse. She runs into Elm, who's like, "I'm pretty sure you're not being forthright with us." And before she can say anything, she goes and she gets bodily shoved aside by destriers who have found an infected child.
Okay, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
How did they know that this child was infected?
Well,
If,
they have those
machines.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they've got
okay.
those plague doctors that go around and
Got
like
it.
with the creepy finger thing
Yeah,
and test
yeah.
them somehow.
Like
yeah.
the Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, so I think like somebody in the neighborhood rats them out and be like, "Hey, they got a sick kid," and then the guys show up and
Okay, because I was picturing before you had confirmed you had to use your magic to have black blood. I was like, oh, they can just like see it in people, or maybe like dumb kids do. He fell and scraped his knee, and then he was bleeding black blood.
That could be too.
Saying black blood is hard.
Any way that they can find the black blood, they're like, this one.
Yeah.
So Houth has the dad of the infected child whipped and then demands their charms. So they hand over their charms. He sentences the parents to death, and the boy will be taken to the king to see if his infection is useful. If it's not useful, he'll be put to death as well. Houth uses his Sith card to force the parents to walk into the mist. Elspeth convinces Elm to intercede. So Elm walks in with his Sith card, but Raven and Jesper show up with destriers, and then this pandemonium erupts. Yet again, another big brawl. Elspeth calls on the nightmare to help her, and she runs to the boy, taking out a few physicians along the way. She instructs the kid to find his parents with her charm, then absolutely takes out some dude named Lyndon. Raven finds her and notes, like a total moron, that her eyes are yellow.
And Lyndon's a bullshit tree anyway.
It
They're
is.
just full of bugs constantly shitting on you.
I was thinking of Lyndon Johnson.
All right, so then he recoils at her fingers, which are covered in blood.
Why are they covered in blood?
Because she took out the Lyndon guy.
Oh,
and
yeah,
she
that's
did it
right.
with like her little claw fingers
Yeah,
because
right,
the
forgot.
nightmare took over.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So maybe this is morally repugnant of me, but in a very Vulcan, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few way, I feel like maybe they should have just let this scene play out without blowing up their spot. I'm sorry, but the greater goal here seems more important than this one incident that could have, number one, exposed them, and number two, caused Elspeth to be consumed by the nightmare.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
but they
they're
don't
good
know
cops.
that. They don't know that she's going to be consumed by
True.
the nightmare.
She knows.
And then she knows. Yes,
She knows
but
maybe
nobody
she
else
should
does.
just
Does she know
skedaddle.
now, though? Oh, yeah, she does know because she
does.
talked to that
Yeah,
one guy.
she knows about it. So she can't control anybody else's reactions, but she did kind of like spur them into acting.
She
and
did.
then
She basically made Elm
she
like
made
act.
Elm act.
He was
and
like, I'm not doing
did.
anything. And she's like, you have a fucking Sith, whatever, card. Use it.
Yeah. And then it just went crazy.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
because Raven shows up with all of his people, but like it kind of went nuts. She didn't have to suddenly be like, I'm gonna go help. Like she didn't need to do that.
What about these poor peasants trying to pick up their cafeteria food on market day?
Yeah.
All these poor
They
people.
can't.
Fucking up the tomatoes.
Yeah. The Bosco sticks.
Okay, so Raven goes into fix-it mode and asks her outright, "What's with the yellow eyes?"
She's got jaundice.
Also, we haven't described this, but she's got like black eyes normally. So like it's very obvious that they've changed colors.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she says he won't like the answer. And Raven gets into it with Houth, who is pretty obviously challenging his authority. Raven basically tells him to throw down or get fucked. Houth accuses him of being distracted. So Raven does like a big boy glare and tells everyone to stay alert or something. Then his dad tells him that Emery has run away from Castlestone.
Okay, this whole Raven versus Houth thing feels very stupid to me. Like, isn't Raven just the head of the like Destiers, which is like
Yeah.
I'm equating to the like King's Guard?
Yeah.
But doesn't that feel that then he shouldn't like be allowed to question the prince?
Yeah,
Like-
if you're staging a coup, you need to be a lot more subtle about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but no one in here has stated yet that they want to be king. But they're like, hey, you know this prince that's like kind of a dick? I'm now gonna publicly challenge him in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
just like the head of the cops.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's cool with it. No one's like, hey, should we start a rebellion now? Like, you know, the peasants are still just shopping for their tomatoes.
And it doesn't really seem like Raven has great control over the Destiers. He kind of feels like a dude who's nearby. So
yeah.
I
I
really
feel like
don't know
they're
where he
always
gets the
somewhere
gumption.
else without him. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
So Emery runs to Castle U and tells everyone that he thinks the Shepherd King was a ewe. Emery promises to go back to Stone, but wants to see the garden first. Like he ran all the way there, just like, I want to see the garden. No, fine, I'll go back.
Yeah.
Then Elma's like, why did we need to go to Market Day anyway?
True.
And Raven's dad says it was a cover for the Ivies, who were in the Spindle House looking for the well card while everyone is at Market Day. Only they didn't find it, so it was all for nothing.
Is ivy technically a tree?
Not to my knowledge.
No,
Okay.
it's a vine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
So-
they're lower families.
Yeah, maybe they're kind of like a peasant. Maybe the peasants
Yeah.
get like vine names.
Mhm.
Anyway, Elspeth then tells Raven that she's degenerating. That's why she's got yellow eyes and she nearly killed a dude. Then they have sex. Most importantly, he goes down on her.
Mhm.
Apparently, her being more monster than herself really does it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or like, to be nice, maybe it's the honesty.
Yeah.
He does ask though. He was like, "Can I kiss your lips?" And she was like, "Yeah, why are you asking?" He's like, "Not those ones."
Oh God. I
But
forgot about that.
this is I highlighted it.
God damn it.
The reason why I know is because I just went back and went through my highlights for this part because I felt like when I was reading this, and this is going to be a super weirdo statement for me, but like this felt like a very tame sex scene that would earn like the mature rating on AO3. Like
Yeah.
no explicit details, just vibes.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
there's a lot of like there was panting and hands were moving and gasping and he like whispered my name and then bliss.
Yeah. His
And then
mouth
that's
was
it.
on my center.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, nothing.
Mhm.
No, we can say the F word, but
Yeah. It is
no
very,
explicit effing.
It's a glossed over scene, I
Yeah.
will say. It's not like a rated R NC-17 thing
No,
that most
yeah.
of us are used to at this point.
Yeah. Which again,
I mean, it was fine. It was fine for, I think, the vibes of the book,
right.
I guess you could say.
Which are, we're going to pretend it's new adult, but it's very YA.
Yes. I would call it like a crossover
distastefully.
book.
Yeah.
I would say it's crossover between YA and new adult. But anyway. All right. So next day. The next day, Elspeth wants Emery to touch her so she can unlock the nightmare's secrets. He tells her that the nightmare is basically what he claims to be and that she doesn't have long.
The nightmare is what he claims
Yeah.
to be, that he's claimed to be all along. Oh, no, I
Shocking.
need to unlock his secrets.
I know. And like, dude, you've been
told
there.
you everything.
He's literally telling you all the things you need. Just listen to him. Anyway, part 3, the blood. Again, I don't know why there are parts in this book.
Nope.
Elspeth wakes up in the room with the one dark window again. The nightmare is like, I need to see something. Shut up.
What?
Elspeth realizes the stone is a gravestone. They get into a fight, the nightmare reminding her that he's kept her alive so she can stop bitching so much. And she's like, you're a monster. And he's like, yeah, I am. And he ominously says she doesn't have much time left.
I think this is all fair on his part.
Yeah, I know. And again, it's so repetitive because she just heard that in the
Yeah.
last chapter. Okay, so they go to Spindle House for her half-sister's name day.
Doesn't the fact that they have name days imply that this world has like or had a version of Christianity?
I don't know, honestly. I think it does have a lot of like Christian undertones to it, like the whole calling each other Miss Spindle. And they're
Yeah.
like, no, I want you to call me Elspeth. I'm like, oh, that's such a new thing to do. I can call you by your Christian name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does kind of have a lot of that.
Is that a Catholic thing, a name day?
So what used to I only know because I used to teach French. So All Saints Day came about because you like most people, your first name was a saint's name. So like you would be celebrated on your birthday, but also on the saint's day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then when we stopped naming everyone for the saints, they were like, well, we still need to have a day to celebrate the saints. They have All Saints Day, which is November 1st, which is like, you could say like similar to Halloween. Not really. You go to like to graves and stuff. So anyways, if you have a name day, which is another thing for like your saint's day, because your first name is the name of the saint, then that implies that there's Christianity and mostly Catholicism because they're more into the saints than other people. So
Okay. Thank
yeah,
you for that.
you're welcome.
All right. So they're off at Spindle House and they split up and start searching the house. Elspeth is paired up with Elm and they spend all the time going like, what are your motives? No, what are your motives at each other? Dad's butler walks in on them and is suspicious and while they're like rummaging around in the library. Then Ione finds them and is like, let's go have a toast. She makes Elspeth sit at a table with Raven, Jesper, and Elm. They all drink. They then realize that someone has used a Sith on Ione, and it's Houth. He's using the Sith. He wants to play a truth or dare with the chalice card.
This is like this world's version of Never Have I Ever.
Yeah. And he's like, it's a fun party game. And everyone calm down. But no one is calm. Houth goes first. Jesper asks him if he's jealous of Raven. And he's like, no, yes. Yes, he's turning the Destriers against him. Yes, he's going to challenge Raven for command. And yes, he's used the Sith on Ione a whole bunch. Yes, he's cheating on Ione. Like, duh. Honestly, I thought this chapter was hilarious. It was like all of a sudden we're at a slumber party with 13-year-old girls.
Mm-hmm.
It really drove home that this was a group of 20-year-olds, incredible magic powers, and they use it to force someone to tell you who they like.
Yeah.
I know. Like I was, again, I've said this before, hoping the fact that they weren't like literal teenagers, like that was going to be, I don't know, they're going to be more adults. But now we're here at a freshman year college party where like everyone's drinking for the first time.
Yep.
And no one's frontal lobes are developed.
God, no. So Ione is up next. No, she's not in love with Houth. He's kind of an asshole, obviously. She wants to be powerful. She wants to marry him because being powerful as a woman isn't an easy thing. And she's not wrong about that. Elspeth is still like, I wanted to be like you. And Ione's basically like, oh, grow up, Elspeth.
Like her family is so mean and lame. Like I hate them.
All right, Elm's turn. He hates his family. He'd burn them all if he could. He trusts Raven. It pains him to use the Sith card. And yes, he'd be a better king than Houth. Raven's turn, but the chalice doesn't work on him, so Houth's like, fuck off. But then he asks anyway. He asks if he cares for Elspeth, and Raven says yes. And then he asks some more softball questions, and then Elspeth says, are you pretending? And he says, I never was. So swoon.
So you're just mean to people that you like, Raven?
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. Now it's Elspeth's turn. Someone asks her if she's in love, and she says yes. And then Houth is like, what happened to your arm? At that point, Raven enters her head to like help her, and she freaks the fuck out. Everyone goes nuts. Ione releases Elspeth from the card, and Raven's like, I suspect this isn't a game. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's super obvious at this point that this was a whole con by the prince to set up Elspeth to admit that it was her who attacked him.
yes.
Yeah.
It was all a con.
Yeah.
So Elspeth starts throwing up because if used too long, the chalice card turns liquid from truth serum into poison. But don't worry, she's still alive. She wakes up and lets Raven use the nightmare card on her so he can meet the nightmare.
What?
Yeah. So she tells him that the deal with the nightmare is it's in her head, all these things, all the secrets come out. Her dad then comes into the bedroom and gives her his wall card.
For her dowry, right?
So I think it could be two things. Either for her dowry because he knows she's courting Raven and all that junk, or because the butler saw them ransacking the library for something and probably told dad at some point, and then he jumped to conclusions about how they're looking for Providence cards.
Mm-hmm.
He may know more than we know, is all I can say.
Maybe. I did reread this part to figure out if I could answer that question. But he like gives it to her and says some shit about like it was your mom's and your mom gave it, like your mom's dad gave it to her and then she gave it to me and so I'm giving it, and on their wedding night, so I'm giving it to you. So like it could be a dowry, but he also says within that he's like, you don't have to give it to Raven if you don't want to.
Right.
And then he also is like, I wish I could do things differently. So I think
Literally
it's like
nothing stopping you.
yeah. So I think it's like partially a dowry and also like an apology for being a bad father.
Yeah.
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 So Raven and everyone else go out on patrol. Elspeth's uncle shows up to take her to her aunt, but he's acting funny. Her uncle takes her to Health instead, who wants the truth about her arm. She asks the nightmare for help, and he's like, this is going to be it. You realize that, right? And so she has to free her hands, gets blood all over the place, and then Orith Willow, the bad physician we don't like, shows up with his weird hand contraption. The Destros start returning, but Elspeth is fighting her hardest with Haleth and Orith, who are trying to subdue her. Raven is in her head asking what's happening, and she tells him not to come looking for her. She gives herself over to the nightmare, and they kill Orith. They beat up Haleth real good, like he's a whole mess.
He should be dead.
Yeah. She makes the nightmare promise to help Raven, and he says that he will, and then she just kind of stops existing.
I was honestly a little surprised by this. Like I kind like again, you knew at the beginning basically, if you're not Elspeth, where this was going. But I was like, she's not gonna, kill the main character of her book, right? Right? And then no,
she's dead.
So then I was like, oh, well, maybe it'll be like a Feyre thing. Well, we'll just like from the next chapters, just read as if like Feyre's like a ghost in the sky observing everything. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next chapter, we're in the dungeon under stone. And Raven is there thinking back on what happened after they found Elspeth and the nightmare. And he was like, yo, bud, Elspeth's gone. The nightmare surrenders to the king right there. So now in the dungeon, King Rowan goes up to Elspeth / the nightmare and is just like, you're totally going to die, mister. And then the nightmare is like, that's cute. I have an offer for you. And he says that he should release Emery Yu because the king can have his blood instead as Elspeth.
Yeah.
And then King Rowan is like, what do I get for keeping you until solstice? And the nightmare tells him he'll get the twin alders because it was the nightmare who hid it in the first place. So like, what a little shit, right?
Yeah. No, that's.
What do you think the nightmare's long game is here?
That's a good question. I think his main long game is revenge against the Rowans because that's literally all he will talk about in this book is how like the Rowans are assholes and how he really, really hates them. I'm not sure he necessarily cares about anything else. Alternatively, he tells Elspeth all the time to set him free. So I do think his endgame in this book was to take over Elspeth to have a vessel. And maybe possibly he is the big bad, like the actual big bad. And he wants all the cards together so he can like reconstitute himself. And that's the first process to have a body was take over Elspeth.
Yeah.
And not tell her the truth about the fact that he was the one who hit the card and could have told him at any time.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think like he wants his real body and then also he wants to kill the Rowans and be king again. I also think he's got beef with the spirit of the woods.
I think he had like a romantic thing with the
That's what
spirit of the woods.
I was just gonna say. He's either gonna kill it or he's gonna fuck it.
Yeah.
I'd be into
Absolutely.
both.
Probably both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah.
Maybe
absolutely.
like fucking and then killing. I'm not really into like necromancy or whatever. Necrophilia, right?
Necrophilia.
Sorry.
the way she looked at you, man.
I know. The second I said it, I was like, oh no, Tabitha's gonna be mad.
Okay, so final verdicts. Who wants to go first?
I can go first, man.
Okay.
Short.
Sure.
I think it was a good book. Better than what we usually read for this podcast. I don't think it's romantasy, though. I think it is a fantasy with a romance subplot. But if you like fantasy, or even, I suppose, fantasy with darker world building, yeah, I would recommend this.
Yeah, I like this for the most part. I loved the aesthetics and the world building, and I thought the magic system was unique. I really enjoyed how it all meshed together to the greater story and the stakes of the novel. That was fun. I genuinely thought this was a refreshing read. I mean, the downsides obviously are there.
Yeah.
There's a ton of repetition in the rhymes, and it just grated on my nerves after a while. And this like constant refrain that magic has a cost wore on me. We don't need to remind readers of these things all the time. You can give people credit. I don't think I was Elspeth's biggest fan. And Raven kind of felt obtuse a lot of the time. Like there were obvious things wrong with Elspeth, and he was just like, I think there might be something wrong with you. We're just going to keep talking about how there might be something wrong, but we're never going to address it. But I did like the nightmare, and I enjoyed Elm and a bunch of the side characters. And I thought I'd be more annoyed that Elspeth basically does the commit suicide thing at the end. But
Well, there's a whole nother book, so you don't know.
yeah, exactly. I can see that she was slipping the whole novel, and I feel like there was no other way to get what she wanted, keep her people safe, and make her Degeneration have meaning. So I'm going to read the sequel and see what happens, because I'm interested to find out how it all falls apart or comes together, I guess.
Right. Despite my like very obvious complaining in this episode, I actually enjoyed it. Like, I thought the magic system was unique and had a clear set of rules to use, unlike a lot of the other books that we've read. Plus, like, the world building was darker, as Tabitha said, so it was definitely different than what we normally read. I did rate it as a 4.75 on Sorograph. It was a
Out
5.
of 5.
Yeah. So what made it lose 0.25?
The fact that like everything was just like a little too YA for me. For I don't know. I guess I'm a hater of YA.
You
like,
are. You do not like YA.
I don't. Well, I don't. I guess. I think it's just because the theme is always like
finding yourself.
Yeah,
growing
it's
up.
just, yeah. Not like well, like I mean, maybe just the two that we've read so far. I mean, Throne of Glass is technically YA, but like this one and A Fate Inked in Blood, it's all like the first books, they're all just like losing control of themselves, and they're like, man, I wish I could do something. I'm just dumb and weak. I can't. So yeah, but really, I think what it boils down to, because I enjoyed most of the, like, obviously I enjoyed the book. I gave it a high rating, but it just felt like off, if that makes sense. Like the world was pretty serious and like dark and like, I don't know, not like smartly laid out as, I don't think it was like highly intelligent, everything was very obvious, but the people in the book were like in college.
Sure.
Like they didn't really think anything through. They were like playing drinking games. Like everyone was just like childishly mean to each other. And then you have this like big scary guy who's like just a child book character,
right?
Children's book character.
Yeah, I did think that a lot of the characters were kind of dense in a way that was just like, are we gonna ever adjust the point that we all know something wrong with her? And we're all just gonna be like, I think something's wrong with you. And she's like, no, nothing's wrong with me.
Yeah, and I think the one thing reading YA books that kind of bugs me is everything is just a little shallow. Like we're not like diving, like as you said, like we're not diving deep into anything or like having any sort of like, oh, this was said.
Well, because it's usually for readers who aren't as experienced.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So, like,
I do think this book suffers from not clearly knowing what genre it belongs to. Because, like, I don't mind reading YA. I don't mind reading YA if I know it's YA. I know what to expect from that. But this one, like, going into it, I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, is this YA? Is this like adult fantasy? And then as I'm reading, it's like, I still can't tell.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you say the F word and like the guy goes down on her, but like Not like we're not describing anything. No like
Yeah.
sexual words are
Aside
said.
From that,
Like penis, you know what I mean?
yeah, aside from the
sorry.
glossed over sex scene, this could have been YA.
Yeah,
I mean,
just take out the F words and it's fine.
even with the F words, they could have all stayed.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Otherwise, yeah, I think it really is like a crossover type of book.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that does it any favors, but I'm not a big fan of crossover YA adult anyway. So just pick one for the love of God.
Yeah. Again, I think like that little part that felt off, that's what lost that like 0.25 from me. Like if
Sure.
it was all just one genre, I could have dealt with it.
Yeah, fair.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to change things up in this book. If we could have one Providence card, which would it be?
okay, I'll go first. No,
Okay.
Tabitha's got to go first because my comment is after hers.
Okay. I already mentioned this when you listed them out, that I thought the Iron Gate sounded relaxing, but I also think a mirror card would be nice. Being invisible would be ideal sometimes, and honestly, I don't believe in ghosts. Even if there are ghosts in this world, what are they going to do at me? Look sad and say boo?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say I would love to be invisible, but I don't fuck with ghosts. I don't know if they're real, but just the idea of them freaks me out. I'm like a huge scaredy cat. So I'm gonna say Iron Gate. I used to say when I was like 7 that I wanted to die when I was 55. So maybe like with the Iron Gate that would actually happen. But I mean, like I don't want to die at 55 now. Like I'm a little too close to that.
I am also an Iron Gate. Like, give me serenity.
Yeah.
I feel like I clench my teeth too much, and that's probably bad for me. Like, also the flip side is using some years of my life, but they don't ever say like how many.
Right.
I'm willing to risk it.
Yeah.
You should sleep with a mouth guard.
You should. Do you not sleep with a mouth guard?
I do not.
Yeah, you should go to the dentist and get a mouth guard. I've had like
You can
7
get
of them.
You can get an over-the-counter one too.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have like mold. That's what
Okay.
I wear because I never found the dentist one comfortable.
Interesting.
Yeah, when I was 16.
Really helps with the clenching the jaw and the sleep.
It does. When I was 16, the dentist was like, "Do you grind your teeth?" I'm like, "I don't even know how I would know that." And he was like, "Well, I'm looking at your mouth right now, and you have the mouth of like a 30-year-old who's like very stressed out by work." And I was like, "Thank you." Like, I don't know what to say about this.
Okay.
So thank you for joining us.
If you have a hot take or a book you'd like us to recap, you can chat with us anytime. We have our website, recappingromantasy.com, or you can DM us on any of our socials. The links are right there in our show notes. And if you like us, please rate us or leave reviews. That makes us so happy. So until next time, bye.